This video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. More on them later in the video. The BLUELOCK Japan vs Nigeria game has reached its conclusion, rounding off the match with the release of Chapter 325. The first U20 World Cup game is now over, but where does everyone from the game rank in relation to their performances? Well, in today's video, I'll be going through and giving my ranking of the players who performed during the BLUELOCK vs Nigeria game. This ranking will focus on all of the BLUELOCKers who played, along with the core Nigerian 4 players, along with any other additional players who had a significant impact on the match. Now, like always, I want to leave a spoiler warning for the latest chapter of the BLUELOCK manga being 325 because it rounds off the ending of the Nigeria game, and if you have not read that chapter, I would suggest you click off this video now if you wish to not be spoiled. And also join my Discord server called the New Egoist Geeks, and the link to it is down below. Starting at the bottom of our C tier ranking, we have players that really didn't do too much during this match, and the worst of those players being Sadiq. Now, Sadiq, from what I can remember and what Raven can remember because he helped me out with this ranking in this video, he didn't really do that much. His only real prominence in this game was receiving the ball from Bello's pass after he was pressed by Karasu. But in the literal following panel, he lost possession due to Chigiri and Ryo's press. While Onazi does pick up the loose ball right after, he didn't coordinate that kind of interaction with Onazi, so I don't really want to give him credit for that. We did see in chapter 324 that Sadiq was rushing in with Nigeria to try and score a goal off of the rebound, but Nico was man marking him, so he didn't really do much. But that's legit all he did during this game, so I can't rank him any higher than this. After him, for a very similar reason to Sadiq, I have the unnamed Nigerian goalkeeper. The Nigerian goalkeeper is above Sadiq here because he actually contributed something of worth to Nigeria and the game, that being a block from Hiyori's shot. Now, obviously, Hiyori isn't an incredible shooter. His specialty is passing, so I don't know why the fuck he decided to shoot here, but we can't deny that this block, from what it seemed, was a block that would have resulted in a goal if not for it. So since he generated something positive for Nigeria, I have him over Sadiq. He is still ass though. Now, after the two unimportant players of Nigeria, I'm actually kind of sad to say that this BLUELOCKer is ranked at this low on the list here, that being Hiyori. Now, Hiyori, this game was honestly very disappointing for me since we saw how crazy he went in the PXG game against Charles. He went from being able to stop green and have vision on par with Isagi and Kaiser to doing very little in this match. Hiyori's performances in this game amount to a single thing, that being a cross to Rain at the very opening of this game. That was literally all that Hiyori did. Nothing else positive, nothing else negative. The only reason that I have Hiyori over the other two players mostly relates to BLUELOCK's standing during this game. Listen, I would value a successful cross from the winning team over a block by the losing team. It's that simple. So for that reason, I put Hiyori over the other guys. And for the last character in the C category, we have Bello. Bello is easily the worst of the core 4 Nigerian players during this game. His best highlights are being able to successfully dribble around Bachara at the beginning of the game and send a pass to Onazi, but other than that, he's really not that good of a player. Defensively, he doesn't really contribute that much aside from being just another body, as it took Kuso and Obabone's assistance to stop Rain. And even when trying to play like BLUELOCK does, he tried to dribble around Karasu, but wasn't even able to successfully break past him, being forced to pass the ball. He's by far the worst player on the Nigerian team, at least of the named 4. Bello did help Obabone in shutting down Rain in the final chapter, but his efforts really went to nothing if we're being honest here. Obabone was carrying that double press. The only reason I have him above Hiyori comes from his time during the game, being on the pitch for the entirety of the match, and while he hasn't won a lot of plays or contributed much positively to the team, he's still involved enough for me to put him above Hiyori in this ranking. Before I continue the video, I have something very important to talk to you guys about. We all love sleep, right? Being able to dedicate 6 to 9 hours to become a motionless burrito while our brain runs a highlight reel of the weirdest possible dreams, it's the best, and it also really sucks when you don't get a good night's sleep. Well, I have the fix for you because this video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep specializes in customizable sleep masks that feature unique removable foam eye cups. These eye cups help create a 100% blackout environment without applying pressure to the eyes, which is pretty beneficial for side sleepers and those who are sensitive to light. These masks are super breathable, which makes it really no issue when you have them on your face when you're, sleeping at night. Manta Sleep was even kind enough to send me their sound mask, which comes with all of the previous benefits that I just mentioned, but also built-in adjustable Bluetooth speakers. All you gotta do is move these blue tabs to fit your ear, and It gives you the best amount of comfort possible. And assuming you want to adjust the volume of whatever you're listening to, the face panel here can adjust the volume without you ever removing your mask. And assuming for whatever reason you don't want the face panel on your mask, it's Velcro, so you can just take it off. And if you're worried about the battery life of this mask for your Bluetooth needs, don't worry, because it has over 20 hours of battery life in a single charge. I really enjoy this mask, and don't just take my word for it, here's a word from another happy customer. If you want to enjoy a good night's sleep, Manta Sleep is here for you. Head on over to Manta Sleep's website using the link in the description and use the code AERO10 at checkout like it appears on screen, and you can save 10% off your entire order. That's not even including the 15% you save if you spend $99 or 20% if you spend $150. Thank you again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring today's video, and let's just jump right back into it. Starting off our B tier list, we have a lot more characters than the C tier list. Let's start with Auryu Jubei. Auryu's only real impact during this game stemmed from the beginning of the match. During his encounter with Onazi, Auryu was able to deploy a simple domain, which he learned from Yuki Tsukumo in Jujutsu Kaisen, and was able to match Onazi's movements to keep him from progressing forward. This interaction ultimately led to Onazi passing to Kuso, in which Nico stole the ball, sparking BLUELOCK's counterattack against Nigeria. Aside from that, though, Auryu was involved in several defensive plays, going back as early on as the opening play against Nigeria. But he didn't really win any matchups. He kind of just got misled or involved himself and failed to actually take the ball back or win. He did have a positive interaction with Onazi, but since he didn't do anything more than that, I can't rank him any higher. After him, though, we have another defensive player who I honestly kind of like here. We have Yoichi Jingo. Now, I know that some people may be shocked that Yoichi is ranked higher than Auryu, given the fact that Yoichi only subbed on very recently, but honestly, he's done a decent amount for the time he was on the pitch. In the opening chapter, he and Corona were able to double team and stop Onazi, resulting in Isagi getting the ball. And while you may consider this feat to be somewhat significant, I would say it's actually more valuable than you may think, since Isagi just egged on the Nigerian team's ego at the end of the previous chapter. So this is an Onazi who was struggling and actively trying to evolve, putting him at a higher level than the Onazi that Auryu stopped earlier. Plus, against Kuso during his awakening, Yoichi was the only person to catch up and attempt to stop Kuso. This Kuso was the same person who just blitzed past Reo and Karasu with his dribbling, those two players being the ones who caused him a lot of issues at the beginning of the game. And while Yoichi couldn't stop Kuso from making the pass to Onazi, I would still say that his performances put him above Auryu in the ranking, considering he hasn't been on the pitch for a lot of time and he's already contributed essentially the same amount as Auryu. Now, next up in our ranking, we have my favorite character in the BLUELOCK series, that being Chigiri Hyoma. Now, in hindsight, I might have Chigiri ranked a little bit too high, but the glaze is strong with this one, so I'm keeping him here. Chigiri's performances in this game amount to his blitz of the Nigerian team in the opening few chapters, along with his cross to Isagi. This play, I would say, is significant since it led to the first goal by Bachira, as Chigiri gave Isagi the opportunity to score or pass, which then led to the goal. He was also a prominent presser in the midfield along with Reo, seen with him pressing both Onazi and Sadiq throughout the match. Chigiri did eventually get subbed off along with Hiyori, but because he's my GOAT, I'm ranking him up here. Call it bias, call it whatever the fuck you want. I'm putting him here. Next up in our ranking, we have another core member of the Nigerian Four, that being Obabonia. Now, Obo at the start of this game was someone that I would consider to be pretty trash, but he really improved during the second half. At the start of the game, his defensive presses weren't enough to stop Rain, Bachira, or Reo, but after Onazi's block, he was able to beat out Rain in a battle of height, feeding the ball back to Kuso. And going into the second half, Obabonia really established himself as a decent player. Thanks to Kuso and Bello's presses, Obo was able to move in and steal the ball from Rain and kickstart the counter for Nigeria, as well as being able to predict Bachira and Reo's link-up, leading to Nigeria having another chance at a goal. He even came to the front lines to assist Bello and Sadiq in following up with Onazi's shot. And while Obabonia worked with Bello to man-mark Rain in the latest chapter, it really didn't lead to anything, which is the same reasoning I had for Bello. Overall, Obo really saved himself from being a C-tier character with his performances in the last couple of chapters, and I have him ranked above Chigiri for all of these reasons. Going into our next character, it's one that I'm sure you all know that I'm not the biggest fan of, that being Karasu Tabito. I'll admit this, at the beginning of the game, Karasu was a solid player. In the opening chapter, he was able to feed a loose ball to Hiyori to kickstart Blue Lock's counterattack, and in the following chapter, Karasu along with Ryo and Isagi were able to steal the ball from Kuso, to which he then fed to Chigiri. This action, as we know, led to the opening goal. He was also labeled as the core tactician in the midfield, working alongside Aiku and Isagi to create a total lockdown of Blue Lock's formation. And like I mentioned previously as well, Karasu was active in pressing people such as Bella, which forced him to pass, or like when he and Ryo matched up against Kuso in a more recent chapter. In the latest chapter, Isagi does also use Karasu in his link up to break through Nigeria, but he doesn't really do too much to offset his position in my opinion. Overall, Karasu was a very good player at the earlier stages of this game, but he's kind of fallen off in terms of performances, so that's why I have him ranked as a B tier character. But for the last B tier character of this video, we have the best goalkeeper in the series, that being Gin Gagamaru. Gagamaru as a goalkeeper is a character who only really gets one save per game, but that save is always worth a high value. Gagamaru's main feat this game was stopping Onazi's shot just before halftime, saving it with ease, as he puts it. This might just be a basic save, but I honestly think it has a lot of value. First, Gagamaru making this save is what keeps Nigeria at 0 going into the first half, which severely boosts morale for the Blue Lock team. And second, saving this shot by Onazi is actually pretty insane given with how insane this shot actually was. Onazi made this shot while being pressured by Aiku and Isagi together. The fact that one of Blue Lock's best players and Blue Lock's best defender couldn't even stop Onazi from making this shot just goes to show you how impressive this shot actually was. I'd also put him up this high given his prominence in chapter 324, reaching out in an attempt to stop Onazi's shot, and assuming this shot went any lower, Gagamaru probably would have blocked it. So overall, I think that Gagamaru deserves to be in the B tier slot, but I don't think he deserves to be A tier though. Before getting into the A, S, and MVP tiers of this video, I want to remind you guys that if you are enjoying this video so far, to leave me a like and subscribe down below to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this. For the first character of our A tier selection, it's a character that is honestly pretty solid in the defensive line this game, that being Iki Nico. Nico was honestly a very solid player during the first half of this game. Some might even argue that he was the MVP during the first half. Nico's core feats amount to a block of Onazi's shot in the opening chapter and a steal from Kuso in a later chapter. While I do understand the argument of earlier feats matter less than later feats, I would still argue that Nico deserves to be an A tier. I mean, Onazi's shooting ability in the beginning of the game was good enough to surpass both Audio and Aiku's presses, so much so that Nico needed to move in and close off that last gap to block it. Onazi's ability to score shouldn't be underrated, and considering that Nico was able to stop him from scoring in the first attempt in, Onazi doing so, I would give Nico some credit for that. As for his feat of stopping Kuso and stealing the ball, this was the moment that led to the goal by Ryo and Bachira, as Nico was able to feed a pass to Ryo to spark this play. So he essentially had a stop of a goal and a kickstarter for another goal. We also have Nico being an active defender in recent chapters, seen with him marking Sadiq in chapter 324, while the other Nigerian players lost their marks. So for what it's worth, Nico was able to at least hold his player on lockdown, which is more than you can say for Audio and Aiku in this circumstance, so I think he deserves to be A tier. Next up though, we have a player that you might disagree with me on in being A tier, that being Corona Ranze. Now, I know that Corona has only been on the pitch for like 3 to 4 chapters, but I seriously do think that Corona deserves this A tier spot. First of all, Corona along with Raichi was able to stop Onazi undergoing an awakening. I already explained why this moment is important, but allow me to refresh your memory. Onazi undergoing an awakening is someone vastly more dangerous and stronger than the Onazi at the beginning of the game. Because of this, feats done later in the game always are going to hold more value than ones done at the beginning of the game. But the main reason I have Corona ranked so high here is because of his clutch save at the end of chapter 324. This moment would have been a goal if not for Corona. The Nigerian players, excluding Sadiq, all threw off their marks to rush towards the free ball at the net. And based on their positioning and Gagamaru on the ground, if not for Corona here, this would have been a goal. Am I saying that this last minute goal save is enough to justify Corona being an A tier? Yeah. Yes, I am. But next up, we have the captain of the Blue Lock team and its main central defender. We have Oliver Aiku. Now, Aiku throughout this match really hasn't done too much, but I still think it's worthy to put him here. Aiku was consistently involved in almost any defensive play during this game, always matching up against Kuso or Onazi when needed. He was also shown clearing loose balls up the field, which sparked the counterattack by Isagi and Rin, which did lead to Rin's spinning gear shot goal. But his best feat, and the main reason I have him up in the A tier, is his interaction with Onazi in chapter 324. During this play, an awakened Onazi who had unlocked Predator essentially beat Aiku and Isagi out in a 2-on-1. Onazi, for what it's worth, is a solid ass player, and this awakening just pushed him to that next level. Despite all these factors and Onazi reviving his shot course, Aiku was able to slide in and stop Onazi's shot while in flow, which stopped a goal for Nigeria being scored. Maybe you could say I'm glazing Aiku, but I don't care because I think that this feat is substantial. What would have been the last play of the game and the deciding factor of whether or not Nigeria scores, stopping this goal and this awakening is an incredibly impressive feat during this match. So I have Aiku ranked up here for this reason. Next in A tier, we have the captain of the Nigeria team, but kind of funny we're going from captain to captain here. We have Kuso. Kuso, for what it's worth, was an incredibly consistent player during this entire game and really showed what he's made of during the second half. While I do think he made some sloppy errors at the beginning of the game, like his bad pass that got intercepted by Karasu, I think he more than made up for it in this later half. He had several successful dribble plays, like being able to break through Rin and Isagi, along with Bachara after his goal, but was also recently able to dribble around Ryo and Karasu with relative ease. Those two players were ones that were causing him a lot of issue in the beginning half of the game. Plus, Ryo and Karasu are two decently strong characters, so him being able to do this shows that Kuso himself is actually fairly strong. He was also great at claiming loose balls, which helped spark Nigeria's counters, and in the most recent chapter, he even came back to assist on defense, helping Onazi to deal with Isagi. While nothing positive did result from this press, he still applied himself, so I'm putting him here. But Kuso's probably best feats during this game and the overall chapters that he shined were his passes to Onazi. Despite being pressured by players like Karasu or Raichi, Kuso was still able to deliver passes to Onazi that made it easy for him to perform and play. And in chapter 323, Kuso was able to send a whipped cross while being tackled by Raichi, giving Onazi 4 different shooting possibilities. This same Raichi being an upgraded version of the guy who man-marked Snuffy, since y'all love to glaze that feat into oblivion. This should give you justification as to how impressive this play was, considering Kuso is making this cross while being pressured by Raichi. Kuso was essentially the core playmaker for the Nigerian team, and I would argue he was actually just as substantial to this game as Onazi. Because of that, I really think he deserves to be in the A tier spot. And for the last character in A tier, we have what is the first goal scorer of this ranking, because the other goal scorers haven't been mentioned yet. Let's talk about Mikage Ryo. Now, I want to preface this. Goals do hold a lot of value in the series. And with Ryo here, since he was a goal scorer, he is pushed very high up on this ranking. Ryo's placement in the ranking comes from his consistent link-ups with Isagi and Karasu in the midfield, his offensive dribble play with Bachara, and to top it off, his goal in chapter 316 by copying Chigity's 44 Panther snipe. Now, obviously, Ryo is one of my favorite characters in the series, and him scoring a goal by copying my favorite character in the series being Chigity, yeah, I'm gonna rank him up fairly high. But there really isn't enough justification for me to put Ryo in S tier, considering this goal and his one link up leading towards the goal, aside from his minor plays in the midfield, that's really all he did, and I don't think that justifies an S tier ranking. Ryo being able to score a goal in the opening match is definitely insane though, as I wouldn't have expected him to score one so early on given the circumstances with Nagi at the end of the NEL. But with this new master copy technique, he and Bachara were able to shred through the midfield, which did lead to a goal. It was a really good goal, but considering this goal and the build up towards it are really the only thing of substance that Ryo has on his resume for this game, I'm keeping him out of S tier. But now we have reached the S tier characters, which I'm only limiting to 3 characters for this video and future videos. For the first of our S tier characters though, I have Onazi. Despite not scoring a goal this game, Onazi was still by far one of the most active players during this match. Hell, if Nigeria had won the game, Onazi would be the MVP. Onazi, even from the opening chapter of the game, managed to not only get a shot off against BLUELOCK, but also a last-minute save in the same chapter. This save, by the way, would have been a goal because the Nigerian goalkeeper decided that he didn't want to fucking move. And in nearly every chapter of this game, Onazi was doing something that contributed towards Nigeria's offense or defense, whether it be dropping back to stop Isagi, or rushing towards the goal for a shot, or even using himself as bait for Kuso to get a shot himself. Onazi was everywhere and was involved in everything. Even outside of the match, it was Onazi who boosted the result for the Nigerian team going into the second half, which led to Blue Lock having a more difficult time against them. The only reason I could see you say to not have Onazi in S tier and have him below Ryo, for example, is the fact that Onazi didn't score a goal. But in chapter 324, it took 2 Metavision users with 1 inflow to just barely stop Onazi. And even with Aiku's block, Onazi's shot just barely went off target. With all of these feats, I think Onazi does deserve to be an S tier character during this game. Next up on our S tier ranking though, we have Blue Lock's strongest striker, that being Rin Itoshi. Rin is one of the most obvious characters during this game to deserve S tier. Not even counting his goal against Nigeria, which is my second favorite goal of this game, Rin was such a strong player during this match. The opening play against Nigeria, he managed to beat out 3 players including Obabonia, to where it took Onazi trailing back to stop his shot. He was used as bait to help Bachata score his goal and for Ryo to score his. Rin also consistently performed incredible dribbling plays and link-ups with Bachata and Isagi in the midfield, such as the one leading to his goal and the play in the most recent chapter. He also dropped back and stopped Kuso's shot at the later stages of the game, this same play baiting out Aiku and Audio in the process. This was a last-minute thing and a clutch thing by Rin, and I think it holds a lot of value. And then we have to talk about his goal and his ability to control his flow state awakening as well. This goal was by far my favorite before the latest chapter, and with Rin's overall impact on this game, he's one of the best performing in this match. This goal was easily my favorite before the last chapter, and with Rin's overall impact during this game, he is one of the best performing characters from this match. So because of that, I think he does deserve an S tier ranking. And for our final S tier character, you guessed it, it's Blue Lock's hero, Yoichi Isagi. Whether it's the Isagi Glazers or just the narrative itself, Isagi was labeled as one of the most dominant players of this game. Now, obviously you may be confused as to why Isagi was labeled as this, because on a surface level, he didn't really appear to be doing that much. Well, let me break it down for you. Isagi constantly used himself as a tool and positioned himself to help Karasu steal the ball thanks to his knowledge of game-changing moments. That insight let him feed the ball to Bachata in chapter 314.2, which led to a goal as he used himself as bait to do it. Whether you count this as an assist towards Isagi or not, this moment, Isagi did kind of construct for Blue Lock to score a goal here. He then helped Bachata and Ryo again by using himself as bait to allow for Ryo to score a goal. Isagi constantly drove back to assist on defense with Aiku, involving himself to stop Onazi numerous times throughout the match. He also made some great ball stealing plays and helped spark some counterattacks, like with Rin in chapter 320 and his steal of the ball from Bello in chapter 323. Rin even used Isagi's positioning and skills as bait to beat out Onazi and score a goal for himself, which Rin had stated that if not for him showing up, Isagi would have scored a goal there, so Rin essentially stole Isagi's goal. He was able to stoke on both Onazi and Aiku's evolution for his own sake, which we saw from the latest chapter, led to Isagi scoring what is arguably one of his best goals in the entire series. Isagi was already labeled as the crux of Blue Lock's mentality and strategy during the match, and his performances in this final chapter just highlight how good of a player he actually was. Plus, again, this goal from Isagi was insane. Taking a technique that you just saw used by the opposing team and using it to beat out 2 of the best players on the opposing team directly, Isagi was a fucking monster in the second half, especially in these last few minutes of the game. But let's be real here. The MVP of this match is none other than Blue Lock's monster, Meguru Bachata. Bachata, just from his stat performance, is undoubtedly the best player of this game and the man of the match, getting 1 goal and 3 assists. Off that alone, you could argue that he is the best performing player of this game and deserves the man of the match title. But let's dig deeper, shall we? When it related to Blue Lock's attacks, Bachata was involved in nearly every single offensive play of the game. His goal was the quickest goal scored in a regulation match in the Blue Lock series, beating out Sai's goal in the Japan U20 game. Bachata was also the inspiration for Ryo's copy, which let them break through the midfield and let Ryo score his own goal. And Bachata was a key passing player and link-up partner for Rin and Isagi throughout both of their assaults. In relation to how many characters Bachata beat out while playing in this entire game, I'm not joking when I say this because I went back and counted. He broke past a total of 11 people during this match against Nigeria, which is absolutely insane. There is seriously no reason you should have for giving any other character MVP for this game. Bachata absolutely deserves it. But with that, that was just my ranking of the performances for the game of Nigeria versus Blue Lock. This video was strictly my opinion based on evidence from the manga to justify my opinion. If your ranking is different, that's entirely fine. This was just my opinion. But aside from that, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. With the ending of the Nigeria game, I'll likely be posting my France versus Japan predictions next, so please be ready for that. I also just want to leave a final reminder to join my Discord server called the Neo Egoist Geeks if you're ever interested in getting any more involved with our amazing community. As for the question of the video though, what players do you think were underrated during the Nigeria game? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all so much for watching. Like and subscribe to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this, and I'll see you in the next one.